We worked on Wedge 1 for a very long time, 7 years, and we were like 2 to 3 months from finishing it when the plane flew into the Pentagon. A big part of Wedge 1 design was to strengthen the exterior outer wall of the Pentagon. So it was hardened with steel beams and made blast resistant, and the plane flew into the Wedge 1 part of the building, and so therefore it did a lot less damage than it would have done if it had flown into another section of the Pentagon. It probably would have gone all the way through. And Wedge 2 had just been cleared out. So it was a relatively sparsely populated area of the Pentagon. And you know, hundreds were killed instead of thousands. It was a big deal.
I think the whole city was in shock. It was the first time that we've ever seen Humvees and tanks on the streets of our city.
It was very, very emotional just looking at this building that I had been working on for 7 years.
Typically, you don't have the opportunity to participate in, something that helps with a fix, helps to mitigate some of that anger and pain.
As horrific as this was, I mean, going onto this job site was just horrible until all the demolition was complete. Okay, now we're going to build, and we're no longer on a crime scene, basically, everybody relaxed a little bit.
The task before us to reconstruct the Pentagon was as clear as could be. We were just going to make it the way it was. In fact, we were going to make it stronger than it had been.
So there was a lot of pride because you could see your work happening, week by week, and it was amazing how fast we got things together. And so I didn't feel pressure. I felt pride in doing it, and doing it as part of a big, well-oiled team.
There was a camaraderie that developed among the people, and was an opportunity as an architect to work very closely with stone masons and stone setters and formwork people. And I can't begin to tell you what a great experience was, and it was a sense of this is what makes America great.
I had about 30 days to get as much stone off the building as I possibly could. I had masonry crews working, pretty much 24 hours a day to peel the stone off the front of the building. We did use a fair amount of the stone that was on the building and rebuilt it, and then infilled with new Indiana limestone.
The stone doesn't look good here, move it over 3 stones. It was a real art to putting facade back together to match an existing facade.
One of the greatest feelings of success on what we were accomplishing was handled at the on-site meetings during construction, where it would be a group of 20, 30 people, engineers and architects, and an issue would come up. There was no question from anyone that issue had to be resolved on the spot.
It's sort of helped me to this day because you realize that you can make decisions and quickly.
Another thing that really inspired us in that regard is we got there early when it was still dark, and there were hundreds and hundreds of lights on in the Pentagon. I mean, the Pentagon was full of thousands of military people that had their own very serious missions.
Every aspect, every month, every week, the whole way through the project was emotional in one way or the other, from the draining experience walking in to the elation of seeing things come together.
And as we were reaching the end, sentiments spoke up and said, we need to put a fragment of the original wall back in place.
Standing at the dedication ceremony 1 year later gave you immense pride.
The flag, when they unfurled that on the front of the building, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. I think it sent a clear message that, you can put a pretty big dent in our infrastructure or whatever, but we're going to fix it, and it's not going to take us long. We put our minds to something, we can do amazing things.
We were all sort of celebrating and saying, great, we're finished, and then it was, well, what are we going to do now?
Time when we had the first prototype ready and installed, and then the family members came over to see it, and they all kind of sat on it and just had this moment with it. I think that was also a time where all this, detail work with our head kind of deep in the sand of things was starting to come alive.
It was a shift from kind of the thrill of pursuing an idea to a duty to perform somehow.
To differentiate between those who were on the plane from those who were in the building, we oriented the benches one way or the other. So when you're reading the name of somebody who was in the Pentagon at the time that they died, the Pentagon's in the background of your view. And conversely, when you're reading the name of somebody who was on the plane, the kind of sky is in your view. The first time they turned the fountain on, Keith wasn't with me, but I called him crying because it was just so stunningly beautiful, And then of course the dedication was just beyond words.
After the whole ceremony and when the place finally opened up to people and to see people on site and to actually hear laughter on site and to see tears but know that a lot of the tears are actually tears of accomplishment and to see so many different families, family ceremonies, personalized ceremonies on site, from a family reunion to a group wearing one colored t-shirt, laughing about the stories of their lost loved ones, is indescribable. It was really quite intense, and this is actually the closest I've been able to explain it.
You were doing something for your country. You were doing something really hard and unusual, and it was a success all the way through. I mean, yeah, you really felt that you were doing something important.
Like everybody on the construction side, everybody on the design side gave 110% all the time. I will consider all of the folks that we worked with my friends for the rest of my life.
It was an opportunity to do something, and it did make me very proud to be an American and to be an architect.
We've had the honor and the pleasure of seeing a project of ours have such profound impact on a community of people that I think it has driven us to seek projects that do the same.